Okay, good morning. We are straight? Okay. We are discussing Dine Of, Tahor, kosher birds, Siman Peybet. Okay, Aleph. Simane Of Tahor. The, the characteristics of being a kosher bird, lo nit paresh min Torah. The Torah doesn't tell us. Ela mana minim tmeim bilvad. It only lists the treif, non-kosher species of birds, usha'ar minei ha'of mutarim. But besides the ones that are specified as treif, all other birds are kosher. V'haminim ha'asurim arba'a ve'asurim ha'amurim b'Torah. But the 24 that are treif, those are listed in the Torah. So you open up a chumash, you'll see what they are. Parshas Shmini and Re'eh. Okay, let's. We're going to continue bet. We're going to see what the simanim are. Just happens to be here. I'm more interested in this at the end, at this siman, but it's here brought down in the shach. Interesting. It has serious ramifications. The shach quotes the Maharshal, who writes, it's in the Yom Shel Shlomo, that mikol makom, im talmid chacham me'id al of shemekubalhu shetahor, the talmid chacham testifies that he knows that this is a kosher bird, so then, ne'aman, we trust him, and it even trumps issues of Masoret. So that's we'll save this for later. Again, hachalamaisa, it's a question. It's a question, how far do we take the necessity of Masora? Okay, let's continue to bet. Okay. Bet. Komi shehu baki be'otam minim u'be'shmotehem. So anyone who's an expert with knowing what the birds are, right, their names and characteristics, harei zeh ochel kol of she'eino mehem. So go ahead. You can go in the field and you can find any bird you want and go ahead, eat. Shecht it and eat. It's not a problem. Ve'eino tzarich bedika. And there's nothing you need to even check, right? Again, we mentioned this before. There is a mitzvah, at least according to the Rambam, to know the halachos, when you eat them, to check for the simanim. That's one interpretation. That's the real simple pshat. The Aruch Shulchan has more one, that it's really telling you there's more of an iser aseh on eating treif. But anyways, okay.
What do these words mean? Kol oshe.
One of the 24. If you know what are the 24 treif birds, then you are welcome to eat all others. Now you have to make sure that they're not part of the same bird, not just a different breed, because every species, every of the one of the 24, they have a family, they have cousins. Really, the 24 is more than 24, but okay. Ve'enu tzarich bedika ve'of tahor ne'echal b'mesoret. But to eat a kosher animal can be eaten, of course, with a mesora that you know is kosher. V'hu sheyeh davar pashut be'oto makom shezeh of tahor. But what does it mean to have a mesoret? You have to know. You have to know in this place that this is what in of tahor is. V'ne'eman tzayad lomar of zeh hitirli Rebbe hatzayad. And you can just go to any hunter, and you trust the regular community. You trust the regular hunter. Right, the catcher of birds, the shechter, and he says this is fine. This is what he has a Masorah from his Rebbe or from his expert catcher, and that's good enough. Again, we mentioned the Yom Shel Shlomo that, of course, if it's something that's by the chief rabbi of a city per se, then there is or a big rav, then it could even trump Masorah. V'hu sheyuchzak oto tzayad. Shuhu baki b'minim ha'treim amurim b'Torah b'shmoteim. But you're just to trust a random expert. You have to know he's a real expert who really knows really well which are the 24 tameim. All right, so that's not really so relevant, halacha l'maisa, to trust your bird catcher. Mi she'eno makiram ve'eno yodea shmoteim bodek b'simanim. Now let's say you don't know, you don't have anyone to ask. So Shulchan Aruch writes, based on the Gemara, you check their simanim, the characteristics, and then you can eat, right? Even without a masara. Kol Of Shehu Dores. So any bird that is Dores, we're gonna learn on what that means to be Dores. Do we have a good translation of Dores? I don't know. Birds of prey, they're usually called. You trample or attack with their feet and their nails. Okay, but we're going to come up with a list of explanations in the Rishonim what Dores means lahalacha. Okay, so if you find a bird that is Dores ve'ochel, and that's how he eats, he's Dores ve'ochel, beyadua shehu miminim hatameim. So then you know that for sure that's one of the tameim, and it's for sure treif, you can't eat it. B'im eino yodea im Dores im lav. What if you don't know if he's Dores or not? How do you know? You're watching him for a few minutes. Everything looks fine right now. Im kishema amidim oto al chut, cholek et raglav shtei etzbaot lakan v'shtei etzbaot lakan. So this is already one sign of being Dores, is when it sits on a string or a piece of wood. You have it on some kind of a pole, whatever it stands on, and it puts 2 feet on one side, 2 toes on one side, and 2 toes on the other. Okay, so then you know that that's a Dores, a bird that's Dores. That's one of the main characteristics. O shekolet min ha'avir ve'ochel biyadua shehu Dores, or an animal that it's standing, a bird, right? Talking about birds. A bird is standing or sitting, and then it sees food, flying food or whatever in the air, and it quickly just jumps up or extends itself, and it grabs it while it's in the air and eats it on the spot. So that's a case, because normally a kosher bird is going to put it down on the ground and then eat it. A Dores will just take it straight from the air and continue to eat it from. Yeah, with its mouth. Shekolet min ha'avir, that's what it means. Its mouth grabs it in the air and it eats it right away. And then you know it's a Dores. Now that's not an exact, it's probably not an exact definition of Dores, but it's a siman that it is Dores. Okay? I have a list of 8 explanations of Dores. I'll say them in a moment. Most of them are definitions of Dores. Some of them are just signs that it's Dores. Okay. V'im, you know what? I'll just say them right now. So what is Dores? According to the Ran, it means it takes its toes, its claws the animal, and with its nails or toes, it injects toxins, like a hawk. So that's one explanation of Dores. Another one is brought down also in the Ran, that it repeatedly strikes its prey with its nails and toes to wound it, and it just keeps on striking it with its nails. That's an example is an owl. Okay, the Torah Tamima explains it's when it throws its prey to the ground and then sinks its nails into it in order to eat it, like a secretary bird. Rabbeinu Tam says it eats it alive, like a gull. Rashi says it lifts the prey with its nails from the ground to its mouth. That's from that's like a Malayan parakeet. Can't read my own writing. Okay. So anyway, I got a lot of this from that book that I sent the picture out. Presrowski, whatever the name is, who wrote it. Okay, so that's Rashi. So it's using its nails to eat it from the ground to its mouth. The Tiferet Yisrael says that it's press its feet and its nails on its prey while eating to make sure it doesn't move around. Normally, a kosher bird will just eat it, doesn't use its feet at the same time. Then we know the next 2 examples, chulin, is right. So we just said them in here. The Shulchan Aruch quotes 2 signs from chulin nun hey, where it says it catches it in the air. Now he points it out in the book that there is an example that does this is a pelican, but he does point out there is a kosher bird. Technically, if you're flying in the air, if the bird is flying in the air and it eats it while it's in the air, that's not a definition of Dores. Definition is Dores is when it's resting on the ground, and then while it's in the air, it goes out of its comfort zone of resting to jump up in the air to grab it to eat it while it's still in the air, not bringing it back down. If it's already flying in the air, that's not necessarily a problem. He gives an analogy in that sefer. Well, it's kind of like if you're eating at the table and you're sitting at the table, and as you're eating, you jump up from the table and grab food from the waiter. It's not very polite. Anyway, the other one that's also mentioned there in Chulin is what we just mentioned, which has 2 toes in the front and 2 toes in the back around where it's sitting on. And a woodpecker is an example who does that. Okay. Oh, and I left out from the Tiferet Yisrael an example who holds it down and eats it without moving at the same time, so the food stays stationary. That's a vulture. Okay. It's fine. So let's continue back in the words of the Shulchan Aruch. V'im yadua she'eno dores. So if you know it's not dores, and I guess you watch it for long enough, you know that it's not going to be, and it doesn't do any of these things, so then it's yadua she'not, it's not dores. So then, still, how do you know? Yesh shlosha simene tahara. Now, there's also 3 signs of tahara. Now, they don't all have to have. It's interesting. The simane tahara is learned out from the Torah. That's the bird in the Chumash. And it has all of these 3 simanim, and it's not dores. That's the Torah. But lav dafka, these 3 are not exactly 100% mean it's kosher or treif. Okay? And the simane of the tame bird is, we learned it, the paradigm is a nesher. Just by the way, a nesher, we don't really know what a nesher is. Some often call it an eagle. I think it's Rabbeinu Tam. I think it's in Tosfos or Rashi. Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam, or in Tosfos says it's not an eagle. Whatever. It's a question based on, I'm not going to get into all the details, but a griffin vulture. So it might be a griffin vulture or a vulture. It might be a woodpecker. That's another possible pshat I've seen.
Fly the highest of all the birds.
Right. So the Gemara says a nesher is Milashon Asar, the king of all birds that flies above all birds, and it swoops down to eat. A vulture certainly makes the griffin vulture. Okay. Vulture, griffin vulture. It's unclear exactly what it is, but it's very possible that's what it is. Okay. Let's go on. It's fine. Where are we? So the 3 signs of Simane Tahara is an etzba yetera. It has to have an extra toe. What's an extra toe? So there's 3 possibilities. It means, Rashi says it means it has one of the toes is higher than the others. You have, let's say, 3 lower toes, for example, and 1 higher toe. And it's called a spur. It's much higher and it's short. Okay, that's one pshat. Another pshat that Rashi gives is it's not the higher little spur, but it's a back toe. You have 3 going forwards and 1 going backwards. And the Ran says the third pshat is it's an extended middle toe. You have 3 main toes in the front, and the middle one is much longer. Now again, it's unclear exactly what Chazal had in mind. Right, we just see it's a machlokas. And again, these 3 are not, it's not like Malay Gera, and it's not like, it's not 100%. Okay. Fine. Let's keep reading. So that's...
But to be kosher would need all 3?
No, so that's the point. It does not need all 3 to be kosher. It can't be a duress. Duress is 100%, make or break, but the other 3s are not. If it does it once, I think that's it. Again, if it's one bird out of the entire species that does it once in a lifetime, it learned from its neighbors, that doesn't necessarily ruin it. Okay. Etzba probably doesn't. Etzba Yasera, v'zefek, or it has a zefek. Now, zefek, by definition, that's kosher, means it's like a sack used for storage. Right? Along the esophagus, before it gets to the gizzard, or the korkaban, it's stored over there also. So kosher birds do have a zefek. The kurkabano niklaf biyad. The third sign is a kurkaban that it's niklaf easily, or at least with your hand. That's for sure. It has to be where you take the kurkaban and you can peel the muscle away from the membrane with your hands, with your fingers. You don't have to use a knife or anything like that. Okay. La'afuke im eino niklaf ela besakin. Okay. And right, if you need to use a knife, then that's not you're not that's you don't qualify. Right? So just if you want to characterize, there's two simanim that you can see from the outside, and two that you need to dissect the bird that are on the inside. The zefek and the kurkaban's on the inside. You recognize the toes, or if it's deres, from looking at it from the outside of the animal. Okay. Haya chazak umedubak v'nicho b'shemesh v'nitrape v'niklaf beyad. Hare is this siman tahara. It's still okay. It's still a siman tahara for a korkaban, even if it takes you a little bit of heat and you stick it outside in the sun, and then you can peel it apart. That's fine, as long as you don't have to use a knife. Once you know it's kosher, you can use a knife if it's easier. Even if it has these three simanim, you're not allowed to eat from it because it could still be a treifa. Again, these are not bona fide three simanim.
Where did you see that even one of these simanim is a siman, that you don't need all three? Where did you see that?
No, you misunderstood me. These are three simanim, but they're nothing more than suggestions.
Okay.
It doesn't mean it's kosher, doesn't mean it's treif. If it has all three and you know it's not dores, it'll be kosher. But you need to have, then you need all three and you have to know it's not dores. You could be a kosher animal and only have one. If you have a b'masoret, exactly. Or you know where are the 24 treif ones are. Okay. Okay. So then, even if it has three simanim, you can't eat it. Lifisha chosheshim shemahu dores, because we're afraid maybe it was dores, or is a dores. Ella imkein yesh lehem masoret. You have to have a masoret for birds. Shemasru lehem avateim shehu tahor, because you have to have a masoret at the end of the day to make sure. The Rekanti in the Sefer I mentioned, Rekanti also points out talking birds is another suggested sign. It's not brought down here, but the Rekanti brings it. Only of, what do you think? Tuma, exactly. All your talking parakeets and whatever, they're all tameh. Exactly. Why? Because the Torah is against Lashon Hara. And that's the Rekanti. Okay. I think we covered all my points here. Anything important we need to point out? Right. The Shach clearly writes, we know this, if you have a proper Masorah, then you never need to check in order to know that it's kosher. Maybe you're Makayim the mitzvah, I don't know, but certainly you don't have to check. It's always kosher if you have a Masorah. Okay. Let's go on. Gimel. Yesh omrim. Shekol ofshe chartumo rachav. Here's another suggested sign. Okay, I probably should have saved the Rekanti for this one because this comes up later on. And there's another opinion that says if the, I think this is called the beak, shechartumo rachav, it's wide. The kaf raglo rachav kishel avaz, or it has, I think I would call it a webbed foot. It's wide feet, like a goose. V'yadua she'eno dores. Then you know it's not dores. Umutter ba'achila, and it's mutter to eat it. Okay. There's umutter ba'achila. Im yesh lo shlosha simanim begufa. If it has the three simanim. So some say if you have the three simanim, but you're not sure if it's dores, you can check to make sure it's got a wide beak and it's got webbed feet, and then you don't need a Masorah, and you know that it's not dores, and it has these three simanim, for sure it's kosher. Im yesh lo shlosha simanim. Right. Okay, fine. Haga. Now, the Haga continues. V'yesh omrim She'en lismoch afilu al zeh. The Rama says, we're not somech on this yesh omrim, ve'ein lechol shumof ela b'masoret shekiblu bo shehu tahor. And there's no exception, there's no bird. Again, he only uses the word bird. He does not mention chay or behema. There's no, and he doesn't mention it previously. You can only eat a bird if you know that there's a Masorah, shekiblu bo shehu tahor. It has to be a positive Masoret that it's tahor. V'chein nohagin, and this is the minhag, ve'ein lishanot, and not to change. So it's interesting. So you see that, can you use this simanim in gimel with the siman, the 2 in gimel plus the 3 in bet, to make it kosher? So according to the Shulchan Aruch, you can without a masoret. According to the Knesset HaGadol and the Pri Chadash and the Maharshal, so those are mostly Sephardic, but the Maharshal's Ashkenazi. He says you are allowed to be so mechanit, but the general minhag for Ashkenazim is not to, just like the Ramah. And the Kaf HaChaim in Zivchei Tzedek says the Sephardim also paskin for birds that you need a Masara. Okay, here, I'm just going to digress over here for a minute. I'm just going to point out over here, if we look back at the Shach, it's in Pei Aleph. No, I'm wrong. One second. It's talking about the Siman. I think it's Pei, where it discusses Chaya. What's a Chaya versus a Behema? So the Shach says, when it discusses, it's in Seif Aleph, the Seif Katan Aleph. The Shach says, when it comes to discussing the differences between a Chaya and a Behema, he says, Lefisha ein lanu ata elama shekiblu b'masoret. We only have what we have by a masoret. Ketzarti. He says he refers to siman pei bet. So the question is, what does he mean when he refers to pei bet? Because there it's talking about birds. He says ketzarti, I kept it short. So, okay. So it could be, according to the Shach, that you need a masora even for chayas. That's clear. Again, it's unclear what the Shach means, and according to the Chochmas Adam, the Aruch Shulchan, and many others, the Kaf HaChaim, he's only discussing Chaya. Okay, and the Pri Magadim over there says that the halacha is not like the Shach, that you only need a Masorah only for birds. So no one discusses behemoths. The Shach makes his statement in the Siman that's making a distinction between behema and chaya for purposes of chaylev. And the Chochmas Adam and the Aruch Shulchan says it applies to, you need a Masorah for chaya, presumably for the meat, maybe only for the chaylev. The Kaf HaChaim is clear, and others, that the whole thing of the Shach and the whole thing of the Chochmas Adam and the Aruch Shulchan is only for purposes of to be strict for chaylev. It's not even a Masorah for a chaya, but some point out that you need to have you need to have a Masorah for a chaya, not behema, because we don't want people to accidentally end up eating chaylev. So that's how it's relevant to here. Okay, the only one that I know that says the Shach is referring to a behema that you need a Masara is the Chazon Ish. So I'm going to continue in what we have with time. You know what? We're about out of time. I'm going to, in real short, just do a short sikum of, I guess, we'll talk about turkey and a zabu, but I'll save that for next time. But this was your intro. And you know what? We'll stop because we'll just...